The compliance report stared back at me from 3 monitors, each screen a testament to how far people would go to hide their financial crimes. Bank statements with manufactured entries, contracts with forged signatures, transaction histories edited to hide embezzlement. After 8 years as a forensic accountant in Chicago, I'd seen every variation of greed dressed up as legitimate business. My name is Samuel Morgan. I'm 32 years old, and I work for Kellerman and Associates, one of those firms that corporations hire when they suspect someone's hand has been in the cookie jar but need proof that will hold up in court. It's detail-oriented work that most people find mind-numbing, but I've always had a talent for seeing patterns where others see chaos, for finding the one thread that, when pulled, unravels everything. The office was quiet this late on a Thursday evening. Most of my colleagues had left hours ago, rushing home to families and dinners and normal lives. I stayed because the numbers didn't lie, and somewhere in these spreadsheets was evidence that would either save or destroy careers. Also because going home meant facing the reality of what was happening there, and I wasn't ready for that confrontation. Not yet. The current case involved a CFO who'd been siphoning money through ghost vendors for 3 years. Classic scheme, almost boring in its predictability. Create fake companies, submit false invoices, approve them yourself, pocket the cash. The only creative part was how he'd hidden it, layered through cryptocurrency exchanges and offshore accounts. But every criminal makes mistakes, and his was using the same IP address to access both his legitimate work accounts and his fraud network. Digital breadcrumbs leading straight back to his home office. My phone vibrated with a text from my sister Emma. She's crying again. Can hear her through the wall. This can't go on. I stared at the message, feeling the familiar knot in my stomach tighten. 3 months. It had been 3 months since Grandma Helen moved in with my parents, and every day brought new evidence that it was the worst decision she'd ever made. But what choice did she have? 78 years old, recently widowed, struggling to maintain a house that had become too big and too expensive after Grandpa's death. The crying was new, though. For the first 2 months, Grandma had maintained her dignity, her stubborn Polish pride refusing to let them see how much their treatment hurt. If she'd started crying where Emma could hear, things had escalated. Another text from Emma. Dad's yelling about money again. Can you come over? Then another. Mom just called her a parasite. A parasite, Sam. I saved my work and shut down the computers. The embezzlement case would have to wait. My own family's financial crimes needed attention, and unlike the corporate cases I investigated, this one came with emotional shrapnel that no amount of professional distance could deflect. Before leaving, I grabbed something from my desk drawer, a small digital voice recorder I'd purchased 2 months ago. High-quality, voice-activated, 8 hours of battery life. The kind private investigators used. The kind a forensic accountant might need when he suspected his own parents were committing elder abuse. The drive to my parents' house in Naperville took 40 minutes, each mile increasing the weight in my chest. I'd grown up in that 2-story colonial, had good memories of Christmas mornings and birthday parties and Grandma's visits, when she'd fill the kitchen with the smell of apple pie and stories about the old days. She'd lived in Michigan then, would drive down for holidays and our birthdays, always bringing her famous pierogi and that warm laugh that made everything feel safe. I remembered being 8 years old, helping her in the kitchen while my parents argued about money in the other room. Adults worry too much about dollars, she'd said, teaching me to fold the dough just right. They forget that the best things, family, love, good food, these don't have price tags. How wrong she'd been. Everything had a price tag in the Morgan household now. I parked down the street, not ready to announce my arrival yet. From my car, I could see the house's lit windows, could imagine the scene inside. Mom and Dad in the living room probably reviewing bank statements, calculating how much more they could extract. Emma in her old room, 28 and moved back home after her divorce. The only one besides me who seemed to see what was happening. And Grandma, confined to the small guest room that used to be Dad's office, probably wondering how her golden years had turned into this nightmare. The recorder fit perfectly in my shirt pocket, small enough to be invisible but positioned to catch every word. I tested it extensively, knew its range and limitations. I'd already captured a dozen conversations, each one worse than the last. Building a case just like I did at work. Only this time, the criminals shared my DNA. My phone rang. Emma, whispering, "Where are you?" "Outside." "What's happening?" "They found out about the CD. The 30,000 she kept. Mom's losing it. The certificate of deposit. Grandma's last financial safety net. The one thing she'd managed to keep hidden when she sold her house and moved in. She told me about it in confidence, made me promise not to mention it. Just in case, she'd said, though we both knew in case of what. How did they find out? I asked. Bank statement came today. Grandma usually gets the mail, but Mom beat her to it. Opened it right there in the kitchen. You should have seen her face, Sam. Like she'd found buried treasure. I'm coming in, I said. Sam, wait. Maybe we should. But I was already out of the car, walking toward the house where my childhood had happened and my grandmother was being systematically destroyed. The front door was unlocked. It always was, my parents too confident in their suburban safety to bother with basic security. I could hear my mother's voice before I even entered, sharp and accusatory, cutting through walls like the knife it was meant to be. $30,000, Mother. 30,000. Were you ever going to tell us about it? Or were you planning to hide it forever while we pay for everything? I stepped into the foyer, noting the changes since my last visit. New furniture, expensive and uncomfortable looking. A flat-screen TV that took up most of one wall. Updated kitchen appliances visible through the doorway. All purchased, I knew, with Grandma's money. The forensic accountant in me had done the math. House sale, $300,000. Savings accounts, $50,000. Life insurance cash out, $75,000. Total, $425,000. Current balance in my parents' checking and savings, maybe $40,000. Where had the rest gone? The new cars in the driveway accounted for maybe $80,000. The Hawaii vacation, first class everything, $15,000. New furniture and electronics, $30,000. That still left $260,000 unaccounted for. It's my emergency fund. Grandma's voice came from the living room, small but still trying for dignity. I need to keep something. You need. My mother's laugh was ugly. You live here for free. We feed you, house you, take care of you. What could you possibly need money for? Linda, please. That was my father, his voice carrying that weak protest that never actually challenged my mother's actions, just provided the illusion that he wasn't complicit. Let's discuss this calmly. Calmly? She's been lying to us, Robert, sitting on $30,000 while we drain our savings to support her. I pressed record on the device in my pocket, the soft beep masked by my footsteps as I approached the living room. This conversation would join the others in my evidence file. Emma appeared at the top of the stairs, her face pale with stress. She'd lost weight since moving back home, the combination of her own problems and witnessing Grandma's treatment eating away at her. The divorce had been brutal. Her ex had cleaned out their accounts and left her with nothing but debt. She'd had nowhere to go except back to our parents, trading one form of abuse for another. I held up a hand, signaling her to wait, and moved toward the living room. The scene was exactly what I'd expected. Grandma sat in the old recliner, the only piece of furniture from her house they'd allowed her to keep. looking smaller than her 5-foot frame should allow. She wore one of her house dresses, the blue one with tiny flowers that I remembered from childhood. Her white hair, usually perfectly styled, hung limp around her face. Her hands clutched a tissue, knuckles white with tension. My mother stood over her, holding what looked like a bank statement, her face flushed with righteous indignation. She wore designer clothes that had appeared in her wardrobe recently, another mystery expenditure from Grandma's funds. My father sat on the couch, studying his hands like they held the secrets of the universe. He'd gained weight recently, stress eating his way through his guilt. "Evening," I said, stepping into the room. My mother whirled around. "Samuel, what are you doing here?" "Visiting my grandmother." "Is that a problem?" "Your grandmother," she said, emphasizing the word like it was an accusation, "has been hiding money from us. $30,000 in a CD we knew nothing about." "Her money," I pointed out, "from selling her house. The house she owned free and clear for 20 years. Money that should be contributing to this household. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to care for an elderly person? The food, the utilities, the medical expenses. The medical expenses you made her drop insurance to avoid?" I interrupted. "The food that consists of whatever leftovers you don't want? The utilities for one small room." My mother's eyes narrowed. "Don't take that tone with me. You don't live here. You don't see the daily burden." "Burden?" Grandma's voice cracked. "I'm a burden?" The word hung in the air like a poison cloud. I'd heard my mother use it before in conversations she didn't know I was recording. But never to Grandma's face. Never with such casual cruelty. "Mom, you didn't mean that," my father said. But his heart wasn't in it. He'd been going along with this so long he'd forgotten how to object effectively. "Yes, I did." My mother turned back to Grandma, her mask finally slipping completely. "You've been nothing but a drain since you moved in. We've spent thousands making this work." "You spent her money," I corrected, moving closer to Grandma's chair. "The $300,000 from her house sale. Where did that go, Mom? Because I don't see any renovations for accessibility. No medical equipment. No hired help. Just new cars in the driveway and a vacation to Hawaii last month." "How dare you?" "The forensic accountant dares," I said quietly. "Would you like me to do a full audit? Track every dollar from Grandma's accounts to yours? I bet that would make interesting reading." "Is that a threat?" My father finally looked up, some spark of his old authority trying to surface. "It's an offer of professional services. Pro bono, of course. Family discount." The room went silent except for the sound of Grandma's labored breathing. She'd developed anxiety attacks since moving in, her doctor said. Stress-related. I wondered what the doctor would say if he knew the source of that stress. "You need to leave," my mother said finally. "This is a family matter." "I'm family. So is Emma. So is Grandma. Or did you forget that when you started seeing dollar signs? Get out." Her voice was low, dangerous. "And take your accusations with you." I looked at my father. "Dad?" Nothing to say. He met my eyes, and I saw something that might have been shame flicker across his face. But it was quickly replaced by the resignation I'd grown accustomed to. "Your mother's right, Sam. This isn't your business." "Financial elder abuse is everyone's business," I said. "Ask the state's attorney. They're very interested in these cases lately, especially when there's documentation." The threat hung in the air like smoke. My mother's face went from red to pale so fast I thought she might faint. My father straightened, finally showing some backbone, though not in the way I'd hoped. "Are you threatening us?" he asked. "I'm stating facts. Grandma sold her house and moved in here with significant assets. Those assets have mysteriously disappeared while she's been systematically isolated from friends, discouraged from leaving the house, and now berated for keeping a small emergency fund. Any investigator would find that pattern interesting. You little... My mother started forward, but Dad caught her arm. Linda, not in front of... He gestured toward Grandma. In front of what? The cash cow? Because that's all she is to you, isn't it? I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a recording from last week. Should I play the conversation where you called her exactly that? Or the one where you discussed how much longer she might live and whether it was worth keeping her around? You recorded us? My mother's voice went shrill. In our own home? Protecting evidence, I said calmly. You taught me that, Mom. Remember? Always have proof. Never trust anyone's word. Of course, you meant in business. But family's just another business to you, isn't it? Samuel. Grandma's voice was stronger now. Please, don't make this worse. I knelt beside her chair, taking her trembling hand. It felt like bird bones wrapped in tissue paper, so different from the strong hands that had taught me to make pierogi. Grandma, you don't have to accept this. You have rights. You have options. I have nowhere else to go, she whispered. I sold my house. My friends think I'm happy here. I'm trapped. She's being dramatic, Mom snapped. Mother, you're not trapped. You're cared for. Federal housed. All we're asking is that you contribute fairly to the household that supports you. With her last $30,000? Emma had come down the stairs, unable to stay silent anymore. Haven't you taken enough? Another ungrateful child heard from, my mother said. Living here rent-free while judging how we manage our household. I pay rent, Emma protested. $500 a month, which is all I can afford since the divorce. Barely covers your food, Mom dismissed. And don't get me started on the utilities you use. The water bill alone. You mean the water bill that's the same as it was before either of us moved in? I interrupted. I've seen the statements, Mom. The only utility that's increased significantly is the cable bill. Because you added premium channels. With Grandma's money. Enough! My father stood, trying to assert authority he'd long since abdicated. This kind of talk isn't helping anyone. It's helping me understand why Grandma cries at night, Emma said quietly. Why she barely eats anymore. Why she hasn't left the house in a month except for doctor's appointments. She doesn't want to go out, my mother insisted. Tell them, Mother. Tell them how you prefer to stay in your room. Grandma looked at each of us in turn, her eyes filled with tears but also something else. Anger, maybe, or just exhaustion from pretending. I prefer to stay in my room, she said slowly, because every time I come out, you remind me how much I cost. Every meal is a calculation. Every shower is timed. Every light I turn on is noted. I stay in my room because at least there, I can pretend I'm still a person and not a... What did you call me last week, Linda? An expensive pet. The silence that followed was deafening. Even my mother seemed shocked that Grandma had actually spoken the truth. I think, I said carefully, that Grandma needs a break from this environment. How about she comes to stay with me for a few days? Let everyone cool down. Absolutely not, my mother said. She's confused. Elderly. She needs supervision. Confused enough to sign over power of attorney? I asked. Because that's what you're after, isn't it? The CD is just the latest discovery. You want control of everything. For her own good. For your own greed. I turned to Grandma. Pack a bag. You're leaving. Samuel, I can't. They're my family. Your father is my son. Some son, Emma muttered. My father's face flushed. Emma, you don't understand the pressures we're under. The economy, the mortgage, retirement savings. So you steal from your mother? I stood, anger finally breaking through my professional calm. You let your wife treat her like an ATM with a pulse? You sit there while she's emotionally abused every single day. It's not abuse, my mother said, but her voice lacked conviction. We're providing care. You're providing prison. And charging her $400,000 for the privilege. I pulled out my phone again, scrolling to another recording. This one from a week ago when they thought Grandma was napping. My mother's voice filled the room. Need to get that CD information soon. Once we have power of attorney, we can move her to a state facility. Medicaid will cover it after the money's gone. 5 years, Robert. We just have to hide the asset transfer for 5 years. The silence that followed was deafening. Even my mother couldn't spin that into something benign. They'd been planning to strip Grandma of everything, then dump her in a state-run nursing home once the money was gone. That's out of context, my father said weakly. The context makes it worse, I assured him. The full conversation includes Mom researching which facilities have the highest mortality rates. Apparently, Grandma living too long would be inconvenient. Grandma made a sound like a wounded animal. Emma wrapped her arms around her, glaring at our parents with undisguised hatred. You monsters, Emma said. You absolute monsters. She raised you, Dad. When Grandpa died and left you with nothing, she worked 2 jobs to put you through college. And this is how you repay her. That was 40 years ago, my mother said dismissively. What has she done for us lately except drain our resources? What have you done for her? I countered. Except drain her bank accounts? Get out, my mother said, but her voice lacked its earlier authority. All of you. If she leaves, she's not welcome back. Ever. Perfect, I said. Grandma Emma, get your things. We're done here. Where will we go? Grandma asked, and the fear in her voice broke my heart. My apartment to start. Then we'll figure out something permanent. Something that doesn't involve being robbed by family. You can't take care of her, my mother protested. You work 60-hour weeks. You know nothing about elder care. I know enough not to steal from her. That's a good start. If she leaves, we're calling the police, my father threatened. Report her missing. Say you kidnapped a vulnerable adult. I actually laughed. Please do. I'll play them the recordings of you planning to commit Medicaid fraud. We'll see who gets arrested first. Those recordings are illegal. Those recordings are evidence, and I have dozens of them, including one from yesterday where Mom was on the phone with her sister, bragging about the cruise she booked for next month. With Grandma's money, of course, while telling Grandma you can't afford her blood pressure medication. That was news to Emma and Grandma. I watched my grandmother's face crumble as she realized the depth of the deception. My medication? She whispered. You said insurance wouldn't cover it anymore. I've been rationing my pills. Because Mom pocketed the insurance money instead of paying for your prescriptions, I said. I have the pharmacy records, Grandma, and the insurance statements showing they would have covered 90%. You could have killed her. Emma exploded. Blood pressure medication isn't optional at her age. She's fine, my mother said, but she wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. I was going to refill it soon. When? After the cruise? After she had a stroke from uncontrolled hypertension. I was done being calm, done being professional. You know what? We're not just leaving. We're going to the emergency room first. Get Grandma checked out. Document any health issues caused by medication noncompliance. Add medical neglect to the financial abuse charges. Charges? My father's voice cracked. Sam, let's not be hasty. Hasty? You've been stealing from her for 3 months. Planning to steal more. Planning to dump her in a facility when the money runs out. The only hasty thing here is that I didn't act sooner. Took an hour to pack, though there wasn't much to take. My parents had sold or donated most of Grandma's belongings when she moved in, claiming they were downsizing for her own good. Her entire life now fit in 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. Emma packed her own things, making the decision to leave without even discussing it. "I'd rather be homeless than stay here," she said when Mom protested. "At least homeless people have dignity." "You'll be back," my mother predicted. "Both of you, when reality sets in. When you realize how hard it is to not be thieves." Finished. "I think we'll manage." As we loaded the car, I noticed the neighbors watching from windows. The Morgans were having drama, and in suburbia that was better than cable. Good. Let them watch. Let them gossip. Let my parents explain why their mother and daughter were fleeing in the night like refugees. My father appeared on the porch as we prepared to leave. "Sam, can we talk? Man to man." "We're talking. I mean privately. No more private conversations in this family. You want to say something? Say it in front of everyone." He glanced at Grandma and Emma, already in the car, then back at me. "Your mother, she's not well. The stress of caregiving. The stress of stealing, you mean? She's seeing a therapist. Working through some issues. If you could just give us time. Time to finish robbing Grandma blind? No thanks. That's not. We never meant for it to go this far. Started small. Just borrowing from the house sale to cover some debts. We were going to pay it back. With what? Your retirement funds? Your equity? Or were you planning to win the lottery?" He had no answer for that, because we both knew there had never been a plan to pay it back. The money was gone, spent on luxuries and lifestyle inflation, on maintaining an image of success that was as hollow as their marriage. "What are you going to do?" he asked finally. "With the recordings? Whatever it takes to protect Grandma and recover what was stolen. Lawyer up, Dad. You're going to need it." "Sam. And Dad? When you're talking to that lawyer, ask them about the penalties for Medicaid fraud. Ask about elder abuse charges. Ask about what happens when adult children steal from their parents. Because that's your future now. Not cruises and retirement. Legal fees and possible jail time." I got in the car and drove away, leaving him standing on the porch of the house they'd renovated with stolen money. In the rearview mirror, I could see my mother join him, both of them watching us leave like we were the ones who'd done something wrong. My apartment wasn't set up for 3 people, but we made it work. Emma took the couch, insisting Grandma have the bedroom. I made up a bed in my home office, surrounded by the tools of my trade, computers, filing systems, evidence boxes from various cases. It seemed appropriate. "I'm sorry," Grandma said as I helped her settle in. "I've ruined your life too now. You've done nothing wrong. Nothing. And my life was pretty empty anyway. Work and sleep, rinse and repeat. At least now I have a purpose beyond making rich companies richer. Your parents will never forgive this." "Good. Forgiveness requires repentance, and they're incapable of that." She was quiet for a moment, studying her hands. "The recordings. How long have you been collecting them?" "Since the 2nd week you moved in. I heard Mom talking about your finances and realized what was happening. My job trained me to document everything." "You knew all along?" "I suspected. Then I knew. I should have acted sooner, but I kept hoping I was wrong, that they'd come to their senses, that Dad would grow a spine." I sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm sorry it took me so long to act." "You were building a case," she said with a small smile. like a real detective, like a forensic accountant who loves his grandmother and hates watching her be abused. What will you do with them? The recordings. First, we see a lawyer, elder law specialist. Then we file for recovery of stolen assets. Then, depending on what the lawyer says, we might involve the state's attorney. Criminal charges? Her voice was small. Against my own son? Against two adults who committed financial elder abuse. The fact that they're related to you makes it worse, not better. They violated a position of trust. He's still my baby, she whispered. I remember when he was born. So small, so perfect. Where did I go wrong? You didn't. He made his choices. Mom made hers. This isn't on you. Emma appeared in the doorway with tea. I called in sick for tomorrow. Figured we could look for a proper place for all of us. Maybe a 3-bedroom rental. You don't have to uproot your life for me, Grandma protested. What life? Emma laughed bitterly. Living with parents who see me as another income source? Working retail while they guilt me about my failed marriage? At least with you and Sam, I'll be with people who actually care about me. We'll need to be careful about the money, I said. Grandma's CD needs to stay protected while we fight to recover the rest. My salary can cover rent and basics, but I can contribute, Emma interrupted. My job doesn't pay much, but it's something. And maybe once we're settled, I can finally finish my degree. The one Mom said was a waste of money? I remembered. Teaching, right? Elementary education. Turns out loving kids doesn't generate enough income to matter in the Morgan household. Everything's about income in that house, Grandma said sadly. When did my son become someone who measures love in dollars? When he married Mom, Emma said bluntly. She's always been about the money. Remember when she tried to get you to sign over your house 5 years ago, right after Grandpa died? I did remember. Mom had shown up at the funeral with paperwork, claiming it would simplify things if Grandma signed the house over to them. Grandma had refused, thank God. But it showed Mom had been planning this for years. We talked until midnight, planning a future that looked nothing like what any of us had imagined but felt more honest than anything we'd experienced lately. 3 generations fleeing the same toxic environment, building something new from the wreckage of family dysfunction. The next morning, I took a personal day and made phone calls. First to a law school friend who'd specialized in elder law. Then to a realtor about rental properties. Then to my bank about adding Grandma to my accounts temporarily to ensure her access to funds. The lawyer, Jennifer Chun, was exactly what we needed: sharp, angry on Grandma's behalf, and experienced in financial abuse cases. The recordings are gold, she said after reviewing everything. Clear evidence of exploitation, planned Medicaid fraud, medical neglect. The question is how aggressive you want to be. We can go civil and just try to recover assets, or we can involve criminal prosecutors. What do you recommend? I asked. Both. Your parents committed crimes. The fact that the victim is your grandmother doesn't change that. If anything, it makes it worse. They violated a position of trust. I don't want them in jail, Grandma said quietly. I just want my money back. And my dignity. We'll start with asset recovery, Jennifer agreed. But keep the criminal option open. Sometimes the threat is enough to motivate cooperation. She spent 2 hours with us, documenting everything. The house sale, the insurance cash out, the systematic draining of accounts. She calculated the theft at close to $400,000, plus damages for emotional distress and medical neglect. The medical neglect is particularly serious, she said. Withholding necessary medication while pocketing insurance payments? That's not just theft, it's endangerment. A prosecutor would love that. What about the Medicaid fraud planning? I asked. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Also serious. The recordings make it clear they knew exactly what they were doing and that it was illegal. That's intent. The legal letter went out that afternoon. 24 hours for my parents to respond before formal proceedings began. Jennifer had frozen their accounts pending investigation, a move that would prevent them from hiding assets but would also, I knew, enrage my mother. I was right. The calls started within hours. "How dare you?" my mother's voicemail screamed. "Freezing our accounts? Having lawyers threaten us? This is how you treat your parents." Delete. "Sam, it's Dad. We need to talk. This has gone too far. Please call me." Delete. "You've kidnapped a vulnerable adult. We're calling the police." Delete. "Samuel Morgan, you answer your phone right now. That woman has filled your head with lies. She's manipulating you just like she manipulated us into taking her in." Delete. "The mortgage payment is due. If we can't access our accounts, we'll lose the house. Is that what you want?" Delete. "Your mother is having a breakdown. Please, Sam. Let's handle this as a family." Delete. "We'll give back some of the money. Just call off the lawyers." That last one made me laugh. Some of the money, like they were doing us a favor by returning a fraction of what they'd stolen. By evening, the messages had evolved from angry to desperate. 50,000. "We'll return 50,000 and call it even." The neighbors are asking questions. "This is humiliating." "Your mother's sister called. The whole family knows. Are you happy now?" "Please, Sam. I'm your father. Doesn't that count for something?" I played that last one for Grandma and Emma as we ate Chinese takeout in my small dining room. Grandma listened to her son's voice, tears rolling down her cheeks. "He sounds scared," she said. "He should be," Emma replied. "He's been caught stealing hundreds of thousands from his own mother. But he's still the man who let Mom abuse you," I interrupted gently. "Who sat silent while you cried. Who planned to dump you in a state facility after the money ran out. Being your son doesn't absolve him of that." Emma had spent the day apartment hunting and found a perfect 3-bedroom in a senior-friendly complex. First floor, accessible bathroom, community garden where Grandma could grow her tomatoes. The rent was reasonable, and they were willing to work with our unusual situation. "I can cover the deposit and first month," I said, reviewing the lease. "I have the CD," Grandma reminded me. "I can pay." "No, that stays untouched until Jennifer gives us the all-clear. This is on me. I can't let you." "Grandma, they stole $400,000 from you. Let me cover a few months' rent without guilt, okay?" We moved in that weekend. It wasn't much: second-hand furniture, basic supplies, empty walls waiting for personality. But it was ours, and more importantly, it was safe. No one yelling about money. No guilt trips disguised as concern. No emotional manipulation with every meal. I'd taken Monday off to help set up the apartment, which is why I was there when the police arrived. Samuel Morgan? The officer was professional but clearly uncomfortable. "We received a report of elder kidnapping and financial exploitation." "Of course you did." I stepped aside. "Come in, officer. Would you like to speak with my grandmother? Fair warning. She's probably committing the crime of making pierogies without supervision." Grandma appeared from the kitchen, flour on her apron, looking healthier than she had in months. "Officer, is there a problem?" "Ma'am, are you Helen Morgan? Your son reported you missing and possibly being held against your will." "My son?" Grandma's voice hardened. "The one who stole my life savings? That son?" The officer's expression shifted. "Ma'am, are you here voluntarily?" "More voluntarily than I was at my son's house, where I was prisoner to their greed." Would you like to hear recordings of them planning to steal my money and abandon me? My grandson has quite a collection. Recordings. The officer looked at me with new interest. 3 months' worth, including discussions of Medicaid fraud, financial exploitation, and medical neglect. I'm a forensic accountant. I document everything. I see. He made notes. Ma'am, do you feel safe here? Safer than I've felt in months. My grandson and granddaughter are taking wonderful care of me. No one's stealing my money or withholding my medication or calling me a burden. Would you be willing to make a statement about the alleged financial exploitation? Officer, I interjected. Our attorney is Jennifer Chan. She's already filed civil proceedings and is in discussion with the DA's office about criminal charges. Here's her card. He took it, looking relieved to pass this mess to someone else. I'll file a report indicating Mrs. Morgan is safe and here voluntarily. Your parents may face charges for false reporting. Add it to the list, Emma said from the doorway. After he left, we sat in our small living room, processing what had just happened. My parents had actually called the police, trying to force Grandma back into their control. The desperation was escalating. Jennifer called an hour later. Your parents' attorney reached out. They're willing to negotiate. Can you come to my office tomorrow? All of us. Just you initially. Let's see what they're offering before we involve your grandmother. The meeting was in a conference room that screamed expensive legal fees. My parents' attorney, David Sterling, looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Jennifer had shared the recordings with him, and his face suggested he'd advised his clients to flee the country. My clients are prepared to return $100,000. He began without preamble. Out of $400,000 stolen, Jennifer noted. That's not even a good start. They have expenses. The house, the cars, all purchased with stolen funds. Next, Mrs. Morgan lived with them for 3 months. Room, board care, imprisonment, theft, and abuse. Your clients withheld medication while pocketing insurance payments. They're lucky we're starting with civil proceedings instead of criminal. Sterling shifted uncomfortably. What does your client want? Full restitution. $350,000, representing the house sale, insurance cash out, and other stolen assets. Plus $50,000 in damages for emotional distress and medical neglect. Plus legal fees. That's impossible. They don't have that much liquid. Then they can sell the cars bought with stolen money. Take out a mortgage on the house upgraded with stolen money. Liquidate the retirement accounts they padded with stolen money. I don't care how they get it, but they will make Mrs. Morgan whole. Or we proceed with criminal charges. Financial exploitation of an elderly person, conspiracy to commit Medicaid fraud, medical neglect causing potential harm. Your clients are looking at significant jail time. Sterling paled. I need to consult with my clients. 24 hours, Jennifer said. Then we file criminal complaints. I left the meeting feeling vindicated but also sad. It shouldn't have come to this. Family shouldn't require lawyers and threats of prosecution. But then, family shouldn't steal from their elderly mothers either. That evening, I found Grandma in the community garden, planting tomatoes with help from another resident. She looked peaceful, content in a way I hadn't seen in months. How did it go? She asked. They're scared. Negotiating. It won't be long now. And then you get your money back and they get consequences. And we never have to see them again unless you want to. I keep thinking about when Robert was little, she said, hands deep in soil. He'd help me in the garden, so eager, so sweet. When did that little boy become a man who'd rob his mother? I don't know, Grandma. Maybe he was always capable of it and just needed the opportunity. Or maybe Mom corrupted him. Does it matter? I suppose not. She planted another seedling with careful hands. The woman who owns that plot told me her son tried something similar. Wanted power of attorney, control of her assets. She had to get a restraining order. It's more common than people think. That's the saddest part, that my story isn't unique. How many grandmothers are sitting in spare rooms right now, being told their burdens while their children empty their accounts? Too many. But you got out. You're safe. That matters. Jennifer called the next morning. They've agreed to $200,000 in restitution. It's not everything, but it's substantial. They'll also sign papers relinquishing any claim to your grandmother's remaining assets and agreeing to no contact unless she initiates. Take it, Grandma said immediately when I relayed the offer. I don't want to drag this out. $200,000 is enough to live comfortably. The rest, let them choke on it. I wanted to push for more, but it wasn't my choice. We agreed to the settlement with one addition I insisted on, a public acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Not a full confession, but enough that they couldn't spin themselves as victims. The check cleared 2 weeks later. Grandma stared at the bank balance like it might disappear, then burst into tears. I thought I'd die poor, she admitted. Dependent on their charity, counting pennies, afraid to buy groceries without permission. You gave me my life back. You always had your life, Emma said. We just helped you remember that. The statement of wrongdoing was published in the local paper, a small paragraph acknowledging that Robert and Linda Morgan had mishandled family financial matters and agreed to restitution. It was carefully worded to avoid admission of criminal wrongdoing, but in a suburban community where everyone knew everyone's business, it was enough. My parents' social standing crumbled overnight. Mom was asked to resign from her charity boards. Dad's golf buddies suddenly had scheduling conflicts. The church they'd attended for 20 years suggested they might be more comfortable worshiping elsewhere. They sold the house within a month, the cars shortly after. The last I heard, they'd moved to a small apartment in Indiana, starting over with whatever was left after the settlement and legal fees. Part of me felt satisfaction at their downfall. Part of me grieved for the parents I'd thought I had, the family that might have been. Do you think they've learned anything? Emma asked one evening as we shared dinner. Grandma had made her famous pierogi, the kitchen smelling like childhood and safety. I think they've learned that actions have consequences, I said. Whether they've learned not to value money over people, I doubt it. People don't change that much, Grandma added. They just reveal who they always were when the circumstances are right. Your parents showed me who they were. I'm grateful you two showed me who you are. We settled into a routine. I worked my corporate cases by day, coming home to actual family dinners where no one calculated the cost of every bite. Emma enrolled in community college to finish her education degree, finally free to pursue her dreams without judgment. Grandma started a container garden on our small patio and rejoined her book club, her friends rallying around her like protective hens. She also became something of a local celebrity in the senior community. Word spread about her ordeal and recovery, and suddenly she was fielding calls from other elderly people facing similar situations. We started an informal support group, meeting monthly to share resources and stories. I never thought I'd be an activist at 78, she laughed after one particularly well-attended meeting. But if my story helps one grandmother avoid what I went through, it's worth it. The recordings I'd made stayed encrypted on multiple drives, insurance against any future attempts at harassment. Jennifer had advised keeping them indefinitely. Statute of limitations on elder abuse was long, and you never knew when evidence might be needed again. 6 months after the settlement, I got a letter. No return address, but I recognized Dad's handwriting. Sam, it read, I know you don't want to hear from me. I'm not asking for forgiveness or understanding. I just wanted you to know that I think about what happened every day. Your mother and I are in counseling, trying to understand how we became people capable of what we did. I don't expect you to care, but I needed you to know. Take care of your grandmother. You're a better man than I ever was. Dad. I showed it to Grandma, who read it twice before speaking. Do you want to respond? She asked. No. He made his choices. This letter doesn't undo them. But it shows he's thinking. That's something. Is it enough? She considered this. For reconciliation? No. But for his own soul? Maybe. Everyone deserves a chance to become better, even if the people they hurt can't be part of that journey. Emma was less forgiving when she read it. Counseling? Sure. Probably court-ordered as part of their plea deal to avoid criminal charges. Maybe she was right. Maybe it didn't matter. We'd built our own family from the ashes of the old one, and it was stronger for having been chosen rather than assigned by blood. A year later, Emma graduated with her teaching degree and got hired at a local elementary school. Grandma celebrated her 80th birthday surrounded by friends who'd stood by her through the worst year of her life. I made partner at my firm, specializing in forensic accounting for elder abuse cases, turning my family's tragedy into a mission to protect others. The recordings remained unplayed but not forgotten. A reminder that sometimes the best evidence is the kind you hope you'll never need to use. They'd served their purpose. Not just in court, but in showing my parents that their actions had consequences, that someone was watching, that abuse thrives in silence but withers in the light of documentation. 2 years passed. The small apartment became home in ways my parents' house never had. Grandma's garden flourished on the patio. Emma's classroom photos covered the refrigerator. My home office walls displayed thank you letters from elderly clients I'd helped recover assets from abusive family members. Then one day, browsing Facebook out of morbid curiosity, I found my mother's profile. Public because she'd never learned proper privacy settings. The photos showed a small apartment, modest furniture, my parents looking older and somehow smaller. The boastful posts about vacations and purchases had been replaced by inspirational quotes about redemption and second chances. The most recent post caught my eye. Volunteering at the local food bank today. Amazing how helping others helps heal your own soul. Never too late to become who you should have been. I showed it to Grandma, who studied it for a long time. She's trying, Grandma said finally. Or performing trying for social media likes. Maybe. But what if it's real? What if losing everything taught them something? Would it matter if it did? Grandma was quiet for a moment. Not to our relationship. That bridge burned when they chose greed over love. But to their souls? Yes. Everyone deserves a chance to become better, even if they can never repair what they broke. You're more forgiving than I am. No, she corrected. I just understand that forgiveness and reconciliation are different things. I can forgive them for my own peace without welcoming them back into my life. They're strangers to me now, but I can hope those strangers become better people. I thought about that a lot over the following weeks. About forgiveness without reconciliation. About consequences that teach. About the difference between justice and revenge. In the end, I wrote my own letter. Not to send, but to clarify my thoughts. Dear Mom and Dad, I see your posts about volunteering, about counseling, about becoming better people. I hope it's real. I hope you've learned that money means nothing compared to love, that things matter less than people, that the vulnerable deserve protection rather than exploitation. But your education came at Grandma's expense. Your enlightenment cost her security, dignity, and faith in her own son. That price was too high. So yes, become better people. Help others. Build a life based on service rather than selfishness. But do it there, far from us, with the strangers who don't know what you're capable of when you think no one's watching. We're building our own life here. Grandma, Emma, and I. A family based on choice and trust and the radical idea that love shouldn't come with a price tag. You're not part of it because you chose not to be, long before we left that night. I recorded your words, but more importantly, I recorded your actions. They told the truth about who you were. Maybe now you're becoming different people. I hope so. The world needs more good people and fewer predators. But you'll do that becoming without us. Some bridges, once burned, light the way forward rather than back. Your son, but no longer your victim, Samuel. I never sent it. But writing it helped me close that chapter, file it away with the recordings and the legal documents and all the other evidence of a family that chose money over love and lost everything that mattered. The recordings still exist, encrypted and backed up and ready if needed. But the best revenge isn't playing them for the world. It's living well without the people who made them necessary. It's Sunday dinners where no one counts the cost. It's grandma's laughter returning. It's Emma teaching children with the patience our parents never showed. It's the family we chose over the family we were given. And sometimes, late at night when I check on grandma, a habit born from those months of fear, I see her sleeping peacefully in her own room, in her own space, with her dignity intact and her remaining money secure. No one will ever again call her a burden or calculate her worth or make her cry behind closed doors. That's what those recordings bought us. Not just restitution or justice, but freedom. The freedom to build something better from the ashes of what greed destroyed. It was worth every recorded word, every legal battle, every burned bridge. Because in the end, we didn't just escape predators. We became the family we'd always deserved to be. Just 3 generations of Morgans who learned that real wealth isn't measured in dollars stolen but in love freely given. And that's a recording worth keeping forever. Thank you for listening to my story. If you're like me, someone who spent years trying to earn love that was never truly offered, you know these aren't just stories. They're mirrors of our deepest wounds and greatest triumphs. Subscribe if these stories resonate with your journey. Hit that notification bell. Think of it as our regular meetup, where we share truths that others might not understand. And please, leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever felt like an outsider in your own family? What would you have done in my shoes? Your words matter to me, and they matter to everyone here who's walked this lonely path. Tomorrow, I'll be back with another story. Until then, remember, family isn't always blood, and sometimes the greatest gift is discovering who you truly are. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.